Okay, so now we're going to look at an actual problem taken from real life situation and also what you will probably see on the test. So you can read the problem here. It says you are currently the IT technician for a small but growing business. On site you have a SOHO Cisco router. That means small office home office router. So it's not one of those advanced appliances. Okay. The router has a private IP address, and you can see that there. This is the defining segment programmed in the router. As you can see from that, it's a /24. So it gives us 254 hosts available. The business has grown and now has 120 computers on this one segment. That's too many. The company has requested that you provide separate networks for these 120 computers. They have requested the following networks. You notice accounting, 15, orders, 30, marketing and sales, 30, upper management, 20, and help desk support, 25. So the question, pretty much taken right from one of the tests, subnet the private IP address with the /24 to accommodate the 5 networks. Please provide all info on each network segment. Find the most efficient subnets with the least amount of waste. So what I want to say here right now is you're going to be able to figure out how many segments you're going to be allowed from the /24. Now each segment has to have the same amount. They have to be equal, the same amount of hosts. So keep that in mind. So you need to look at the maximum host we're going to need. And if we look up here, we can see the maximum is 30. So every one of these that we're going to make is going to be 30. Okay? So to solve this, we have to use top-down thinking. We're kind of going backwards here. So if you look at this, the /24, you got the IP address, you got the subnet mask, and then you have the IP of this. This allows 254 computers. From this address, we need 5 networks with a max of 30 computers. In other words, we couldn't do a max of 15 because they're all going to be the same. Each segment, each increment will have this same amount of computers. So whatever you have here has to be what you're going to use for this problem. In other words, what if orders shipping said we need 100 computers? Of course, these would be different, but at that point, you would have to have 5 networks with 100 computers. That'd be 500 computers. We're not dealing with that here. I'm just letting you know that when you're working on a problem like this, they're all the same. Every segment, every increment for each of these that we're going to split up will have the same amount of computers. So when you're looking at all your different departments in your business, you got to take the maximum amount of computers. And that's going to be what you're going to use. So what we do to solve this, we're kind of going backwards here. We got the /24, it allows 254. So from this address, we need 5 networks with a max of 30 computers for marketing and sales and order shipping. The other ones will also be 30, okay? They have the same number of hosts. This formula is important. The max computers needed is 30 times 5 nets. Okay, we know we got 5 nets here. That's what we can use. And we can find this from up here. Okay? We're going to split this up, and you'll get this in a second. We're going to split it up into 5. So we got the 30 computers for marketing and sales. So each subnet we define, we will have the same number of hosts. So max computers needed is 30 times 50, which is 150. Now that falls right in to what we have. So it's going to work here without us having to go into a Class B network, okay, or Class A. So you can make an assumption. The current class allows 254 hosts. So maybe we can use the last octet of the subnet mask to accommodate 150 hosts, as long as we can get 5 networks out of it. And I think you know the answer to that. Excuse me, already. How do we find the new CIDR? So basically, how many zeros do we need on the right to get at least 150 hosts? A simple way to do this is to take 256 minus 2 equals 64. We need 30. So let's just do it again. Let's take 64 divided by 2 equals 32. This is what we need. So now we know we can take 2 raised to what power is 32? It's 5. 2 raised to 5 is 32. So we have 5 zeros on the right side of the last octet. 255, 255. 8 minus 5 is 3. 3 equals 224 from what you have memorized. Okay? So remember, CID minus 32 minus CIDR equals the number of zeros on the right. So we use simple algebra to solve for CIDR. CIDR is 32 minus 5 equals 27. So this new subnet mask is 255, 255, 225.224. We're going to /27. You prove this by taking 32 minus 27 equals 5. 2 to the 5 equals 32 minus 32, 2 equals 30 hosts. So now we've figured out what our new subnet mask needs to be to accommodate what we've been asked to do. So we put it in here, 27, and our new subnet mask, which equals that. This will give us 8 networks, perfect, with 30 computers each. Active octets, fourth from left, 224, 0. Those two right there. We do our increments, which you know how to do, our nets, our hosts. So we needed 5 networks that would accommodate at least 30 hosts each. So we've got it. Now we define the ranges. So we know what the increments are, right? It's 32. Here's the ranges. Our first range, start with the 1, 0, right there. We add 32 to it. Start with the next one, 64, 96, 128, 192. Now we can define the IP blocks for each segment. Here's the first one. You know how to do this. You add 1 to that, get the first address, the last address, and the broadcast address. Why? Because we know the next one already, right? It's 32. Remember, we subtract 1. Subtract 1 from that, 31. Subtract 1 again, 30. This is the next one. Let's start this one. 33, 33. We want to know the last address and the broadcast address. We simply go down here. That's the next one. Remember, 32, 32, 64. 64 minus 1 is 3. 63 minus 1 is 2. Broadcast, last address, first address. Next one, 64. All we have to do is add 1 to that. We get our first address. Find the last 2, go down to the next one. Which is 64 and 32 is 96. Subtract 1 from that, 95. Subtract 1 from that, 94. Add 1 to that first address, last address, and sorry, to get these last two, always go to the next one. 128 minus 1 is 127. 27 is 126. It's because these are all 32, 0, 32, 64, 96, 128. Add 1 to that, you got that. 1 to that, you got that. The last two are more tricky. That's where you go to the end of the segment. Okay, so here, end of segment, beginning of next, not used, because we got what we need. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But using this lets us back up 2. 182 minus 1, 191. Minus 1, 190. Last address, first address, broadcast address. So they required at least 30 computers on 5 different networks by subnetting what they had in the router originally, which is this, in the most efficient manner. And we are done here. Now, what you need to understand is if you're going to do this on an actual network, you're going to have to do some different type of perhaps wiring. It's not that complicated. If the new SOHO routers that you can get that are made by Linksys, they may be able, you have to look at them, and they should be on the back side if they have like anywhere from 5 to 6 outputs. Each one of those Ethernet outputs can be assigned to a certain virtual LAN. So you could assign port 1 to like this, port 2 to this, port 3 to that, port 4 to that, port 5 to this. That's the easiest way to do it, and they're not that expensive. Now, from each of these going out, you will have to go into a separate switch. Okay? So you will need to kind of rewire the network to go into separate switches. And then to make sure that those switches go into the wiring closet and provide the access to the computers in question for accounting, for orders, marketing, upper management segment, help desk segment. Now, here's kind of the trick. If you can make all of your computers static IP addresses that follow this within each one of these, you do not have to do that. And I have tested this. You can actually come out of the router with each one of these going into the same switch, just one switch, and have that go into the computers. This will work, but if you're using DHCP, it will not. In other words, it's kind of weird, but I've tested it. If you're using DHCP, you're going to have separate switches, and you're going to have a router that have virtual LAN coming out for each one of these. Okay, this is the end of the course. I'm including all of the PDF, into a PDF, all of the documents I've talked about that you're seeing on the screen, and even a couple more that define the actual IP address segments for A, B, C, and private and public. And I hope you enjoyed this. And please let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to make sure the comment section is open and that you can ask me any question you want. And I can solve anything you give me. And if you study this, what I've given you, you will be able to understand this, and you'll be able to segment any IP address and understand what's going on very, very quickly. This is definitely a secret that people have not told you, because you do not have to use binary translations, and you do not have to and or bits together to find all this information. Thank you very much.